Well, Kostas Lavdas is a Professor of International Relations at Panteion University in Athens. Thanks ever so much for coming on the programme this afternoon. I'd like to start off with the Blinken visit to Kiev. How significant do you think this will be?
Well, I think it probably aims to show two different dimensions. One is support from the government in Kiev. But also, second, I think it aims to look into different scenarios with the government in Ukraine, in Kiev. So probably this dual aspect, supporting Ukraine, but also trying to work on different scenarios is going to be significant. Remember, we don't have many initiatives around, and therefore I suppose that Blinken's visit, apart from supporting Ukraine, will also be aiming at discussing further developments. There have been many weeks since the beginning, months actually now, the beginning of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and there's definitely need for de-escalation. We can only hope that Blinken and the president in Kiev will be also looking at scenarios for de-escalation.
You talk about de-escalation. We are 2 months on since this conflict began. Are you surprised with the way it's developed and the direction it's taken?
That's a good question. I think it very much depends on the original aims, how you interpret the original aims of the government in Moscow. If the original aim was really to make necessary steps in order for the government in Kiev to agree to a certain plan proposed by Kremlin, then yes, it appears to be a prolonged conflict with no end in sight. If the main aim was and still is to make sure that the east of Ukraine becomes autonomous or in any way, connected to Russia, then I think probably we should not be surprised, although the way in which it erupted with a massive, I would say, brutal invasion of Ukraine, it surprised many of us in the West.
You could say that there are two wars being fought, the one on the ground and one that's more of a war of information. Who's winning that one?
That's a good one again. I think the information war very much depends on the angle and where you look at it, from the perspective you're looking at it. It's obviously different from Moscow, different from Washington, also different from the multiple centers of the European Union, different perspectives. In the next weeks and months, we'll see a situation in which there will be an end to these multiple views, I think, because either the escalation of conflict will bring us into new phenomena that we don't want to see, or there will be de-escalation, as we very much hope, and therefore we will avoid the tragedy of going into a new Cold War, which I think would be the worst possible scenario. So I think this, disconnection between the actual conflict and the conflict of information will depend on timing and the way in which the actual conflict will evolve. If it takes weeks, months to reach a conclusion, then the discrepancy between different angles will intensify. If we are able to de-escalate, then of course we'll be able to meet again with different views and see where the common ground is. Unfortunately, I'm not very optimistic when it comes to the next few weeks, at least.
You talk about initiatives, you talk about commitments, support. The UN Secretary General is going to Moscow next week, meeting with President Putin, as well as meeting later in the week with other world leaders. I mean, what chances do you think, or do you give his peace mission?
Well, it's very important to start talking about a plan, not just, an attempt to mediate. Other nations, apart from the United Nations, states have tried to mediate, but up to now we have no elaborate, sophisticated plan that the two parties can work on. So one thing is to say that the United Nations Secretary General should be able to provide such a plan, and then of course both the Kremlin and Kyiv would be able to work on it. And then of course there are other states, China included, that have a special weight and can perhaps help in the direction of working towards a real plan. As you know, providing an elaborate plan is different to simply mediating, as some states have been doing.
An elaborate plan, mediation, we'll see how things play out. Kostas Lavdas, thank you very much.
Thank you.